The reality television industry has been rocked by what was intended to be an average night. Emotions are at an all-time high, fans are in shock, and rumors are circulating. Mendeecees and Tamar Braxton, two names that have come to be associated with drama, are the subject of rumors following the purported emergence of a private moment between them in unexpected circumstances. What started off as a laid-back evening turned into mayhem, and Yandy found herself in the middle of an unexpected tornado. According to the accounts, eyewitnesses describe a tense, confused, and intensely emotional scenario where alcohol seemed to blur boundaries and spark arguments that had been boiling beneath the surface for a long time as the news spreads more quickly than anyone could have predicted. Viewers are split. Some are appalled, while others are intrigued. Is this a pivotal moment in a story that followers believe they understood? What actually took place in private? What will happen to the complex web of relationships that has captivated viewers for years? And how will the family react? There is no doubt that the drama is tremendous, the stakes are great, and nobody is going to escape unhurt. Stay tuned, because what you're about to learn will make you reevaluate everything you believe to be true about these reality stars. A sense of informal celebration pervaded the group as the evening got underway. Nobody anticipated how rapidly the evening would devolve into mayhem. The energy changed gradually, almost imperceptibly at first, until the strain became obvious as the room was filled with music and laughter. Social media followers picked up on tiny clues in postings and stories, exchanges that appeared normal to the casual eye but had deeper implications. A storm was building behind the smiles and courteous salutations. Mendeecees and Tamar Braxton, both well known for their captivating personalities and past scandals, became involved in a series of incidents that would subsequently rock the community. Witnesses characterized the events as a blur, with drunkenness erasing boundaries and encouraging emotional admissions that were never supposed to be heard. Normally, controlled voices became raw and open, and occasionally, angry conversations about old frustrations erupted from laughter. Even casual observers could notice the change. The atmosphere was tense, unpredictable, and unquestionably theatrical. "I didn't expect this," a companion recalled, whispering as they watched the interaction intensify. "It's like the tension that was under the surface for months suddenly exploded." Everyone in the room felt a little uneasy because it was a situation that could only happen on reality TV. Yet it felt so real. Yandy, who had been on the outskirts, could see right away that something had changed. Half-heard remarks and subtle glances suggested something more than casual talk. Because she had spent years navigating complex interpersonal dynamics, she had always maintained a keen intuition. As she got closer, she saw the intimacy between Mendeecees and Tamar, a familiarity that seemed harmless but had deeper meanings that made her heart skip a beat. "What's happening here?" she pondered, her thoughts whirling through situations she hoped would never come to pass. Every laugh and movement seemed to be heightened, and the room suddenly felt smaller, as though the world was highlighting the seriousness of the situation. As the evening went on, waves of stress and hilarity alternated. Mendeecees made an effort to remain composed, but it was obvious that the wine had weakened his normal self-control. Equally impacted, Tamar made comments that she could have carefully avoided in sober. The undercurrent of genuine emotion was too strong, despite friends' attempts to guide conversations into safer topics by interjecting. Every touch was felt, every word was weighted, and the intensity of the exchanges produced a scene that was both captivating and unsettling. The energy spike was felt by others in their immediate vicinity, as though everyone held their breath in anticipation of the next revelation or explosion. Then, a small but important moment happened while some of the visitors were departing. A brief conversation that was nearly undetectable to the untrained eye suggested intimacy that would later dominate conversations on social media. The scenario implied that limits had been broken in unforeseen ways rather than being openly provocative. Almost immediately, rumors started to spread, with enthusiasts analyzing pictures and videos to create a flurry of conjecture. As viewers attempted to put together the chronology of events, Comments flooded in on all platforms, ranging from shock to enthusiasm. Did that actually occur? One reply said, "I can't believe this is actually coming out," while another said, "I can't believe this is actually coming out." The frenzy had started, and when more responses emerged the next day, the intensity of the night only increased. Yandy, meanwhile, found it difficult to comprehend what she had seen. Her feelings fluctuated quickly between bewilderment, treachery, and worry. Since the circumstance defied easy classification, it was challenging to express precisely how she felt. The impact was exacerbated by the moment's secret. It wasn't just the encounter per se, but also the fact that it had been concealed. It's a private incident that had unexpectedly leaked into the public eye. She started to pace, mentally reliving the incidents and examining each look, word, and gesture. The personal stakes were high, and she understood that what she did next would determine how her relationships would develop in the future. When friends and family found out about the incident, they felt a mixture of disbelief and condemnation. While some questioned the integrity of the relationships and trust that had been established over years, others defended Mendeecees and Tamar, pointing to human imperfection and the effects of alcohol. Fans were similarly outspoken, posting hypotheses, GIFs, and opinions all over social media. The story changed quickly as each speaker added a new dimension to the drama that was developing. What had initially appeared to be a private occurrence turned into a public spectacle with long-lasting consequences for all parties involved due to the intensity of emotions. Screenshots and excerpts started making the rounds on the internet the following day. Once private discussions have suddenly made headlines in entertainment pages and fan communities, the story was swiftly taken up by the media, which portrayed it as a night when relationships and personal boundaries were put to the test. There was a lot of conjecture about what would happen next, and spectators debated every scenario. It was a reminder of how easily private moments may become public tales in today's hyper-connected reality TV world. This could change everything. One spectator said, "The family, the friendships, the public image, nothing will be the same." The level of conjecture increased to unprecedented levels as the hours stretched into days. Reality drama specialists offered their opinions, examining tone of voice, body language, and the night's circumstances. While some emphasized the dangers of combining alcohol with complicated personal histories, others stressed how social media can magnify even the tiniest instances. The conversation was sparked by each perspective, which kept the story front and center. It had evolved into a phenomena that required discussion and attention, no longer only a passing rumor. Mendeecees and Tamar stayed mostly mute during all of this, letting the narrative develop naturally via interpretation and response. Fans sought to read between the lines, looking for signs of regret, defiance, or explanation. And this stillness only heightened their interest, as the public observed every nuanced action, post, and appearance in an attempt to uncover the truth behind the leaks. The stress grew nearly intolerable. This scrutiny added to Yandy's emotional roller coaster as she dealt with her own emotions in a society that looked ready to judge every conversation. Every look, every interaction now had weight. Moments that might not have mattered under normal circumstances were examined and evaluated. There was no room for objectivity because emotions were running hot at every step. Relationships had changed as a result of the night's events, which also set off a series of events that tested patience, tested allegiances, and exposed the frailty of trust. It served as a reminder of the fine line that separates private life from public view and how easily it could be upset when circumstances and feelings intersect. The interactions grew increasingly nuanced and intricate as the narrative progressed. What started out as a single night turned into a continuous story that affected every aspect of society. Friends, relatives, and admirers argued over what was appropriate, what might be forgiven, and what should never be disregarded. The complex network of interactions exposed previously concealed vulnerabilities, including anxieties, insecurities, and aspirations that fueled the flames. The drama grew more intense with every new update and information that was revealed. indicating that the consequences would be felt for weeks or even months to come. No, one could ignore the maelstrom that was created by the mix of leaked moments, public conjecture, and individual reactions, as the emotional fallout strained relationships and forced characters to make choices that were both momentous and revealing. All parties involved were subject to examination and introspection. Even though the first moment had only lasted a few minutes, its effects continued to reverberate, reminding everyone of the strength of perception, the brittleness of connections, and the intensity of human emotion under duress. The relationship between Mendeecees, Tamar, Braxton, and Yandy got more convoluted as the rumors and stories circulated. There were a lot of unanswered questions, presumptions, and emotional weight in the air. Mendeecees made an effort to be normal in front of close friends, but the night's events plagued him, his drunken decisions constantly playing back in his head. Tamar, on the other hand, wavered between defensiveness and shame, not knowing how much of the exchange would be misunderstood or overstated. Alcohol, emotion, and long-standing tension had combined to produce a perfect storm that was difficult for either party to handle. As she watched from a distance, Yandy was overcome with a mixture of uncertainty and betrayal. She found it difficult to comprehend what she had witnessed and the potential implications for her future with Mendeecees. Her voice was barely audible above the background noise as she murmured to a buddy, "I can't believe this. How did it get to this point? How did something so intimate become into a spectacle?" Her pulse pounded as she considered the innumerable hours she had spent establishing trust, only to have it fall apart in unexpected ways. Friends attempted to comfort her, but their words were insufficient due to the depth of her feelings. The story had a life of its own on the internet as the days went by. Every element was examined by fans, professionals, and entertainment analysts. The burden of public attention further increased the personal stakes when rumors about the night went viral. Every public appearance, every cryptic comment, and every social media post was examined and reinterpreted. Despite their best efforts to remain discreet, the three principal figures were unable to avoid the constant monitoring. Emotions flared even more during private chats. At one point, in a quiet but strained voice, Mendeecees said, "Tamar, you have to understand, I never intended for any of this to happen like this." "I know, but you can't just pretend nothing happened," was Tamar's equally passionate reaction. The night, it just spiraled. People have already seen it. The conversation brought to light the emotional complexity of the situation. Fear, accountability, and responsibility are all entwined, making straightforward answers unfeasible. With a composed and determined demeanor, Yandy faced the couple in her own unique manner. "We must be truthful," she stated quietly but strongly. "I should know the truth regardless of what transpired. I can't sit here speculating while everyone else believes they know more than I do," she said, reminding them all of the night's personal repercussions. As the conflict grew more intense, voices wavered between incredulity, grief, and rage. Everyone engaged was worn out yet unwilling to leave the conflict due to the obvious tension. Meanwhile, speculation about possible repercussions started to spread quickly. Trust, future relationships, and even family dynamics were the main topics of discussion. Boundaries, accountability, and forgiveness were prominent topics of discussion in both private and public settings. Fans were split. Some contended that errors do occur, particularly while intoxicated, while others maintained that the episode was a betrayal that could not be disregarded. Everyone involved was impacted by the discourses. Sense of urgency and unpredictability. A degree of shock and incredulity was added to all of this when it was revealed that Tamar had tested positive for pregnancy. The emotional stakes increased as it became the center of conjecture, while Mendeecees and Tamar had to deal with both public perception and personal responsibility. Yandy's response was a mixture of terror and disbelief. From a single night of excess, the story had developed into a complicated web of feelings, choices, and outcomes that required careful handling. Family members and friends were drawn into the drama, contributing their own viewpoints, judgments, and opinions. While some promoted isolation and introspection, cautioning that things could get worse if not handled carefully. Others called for conversation and reconciliation, stressing empathy and understanding. Every choice felt dubious due to the conflicting counsel, which increased the strain. There was a constant push and pull of competing priorities as the three main characters had to balance their own ambitions against public criticism. The narrative was still significantly shaped by social media. Fan theories spread, and fresh discussions were sparked with every post. In an effort to discover the reality behind the show, fans scrutinized each gesture, caption, and exchange. Memes, reaction videos, and discussion threads proliferated, sustaining the narrative and expanding its audience. Decisions and responses were influenced in ways that went much beyond the first evening due to the nearly palpable pressure created by the power of group attention. The couple made an effort to make amends in private, but the emotional scars persisted. While Tamar battled dread of being judged and uncertainty about the future, Mendeecees battled remorse and responsibility. Once seemingly straightforward talks turned into lessons in thoughtful wording and emotional control. The intricacy of their entwined lives was reflected in the layers of meaning that each conversation contained. Clarity, resolution, and above all, accountability were now required due to the consequences of activities made while intoxicated. Yandy's viewpoint continued to be crucial, with her feelings serving as a prism through which viewers and pundits analyzed the developing drama. Her need for honesty, hurt, and sense of betrayal highlighted the story and showed the human side of the spectacle. She demonstrated the challenge of simultaneously processing the private and public aspects of conflict by navigating interactions with a blend of grace, assertiveness, and vulnerability. When leaked chats and private texts surfaced online, tensions increased even more. Interpretations differed greatly, with some highlighting innocence and miscommunication and others pointing to more complex issues. Resolution became more difficult since the uncertainty encouraged conjecture. Every gesture and statement was used as evidence in the public opinion court, raising the emotional stakes and promoting involvement in conflict. Family members made an effort to step in and offer advice and mediation. The family was left split between concern for public opinion and support for intimate ties. At get-togethers, emotions were running high. Talks were interspersed with moments of silence, rising voices, and tears. The severity of these exchanges highlighted how the night's events had a significant impact on relationships that had previously appeared stable. Mendeecees and Tamar tried to make their intentions clear and show regret in the midst of the chaos. Heartfelt conversations, private apologies, and vulnerable moments were shared as everyone attempted to negotiate the challenging landscape of emotion, responsibility, and accountability. Setbacks were common, reminding everyone involved of the brittleness of trust and the difficulty of emotional healing. The process was neither straightforward nor simple. Commentators continued to analyze conduct, possible results, and future ramifications as public interest grew. Conversations that went beyond the initial fan circles were sparked by the story's reach across entertainment media. The scrutiny increased pressure, necessitating quick decisions and emphasizing the conflict between public accountability and private resolve. Every action taken by the parties concerned was contested, which increased the situation's high stakes. The trio's closest pals provided details about the evenings before the event. How a single evening might rise so dramatically was explained by patterns of tension, minor disagreements, and indications of emotional strain. By providing viewers with a behind-the-scenes look that blurred the boundaries between reality and performance, these accounts enhanced the story and increased audience engagement. The emotional impact of the pregnancy disclosure remained a major worry while efforts at reconciliation proceeded. It became inevitable to have tense conversations about accountability, future planning, and personal commitment, which put communication skills and patience to the test. Each person had to face hard realities and think about the effects of their decisions. It's called for maturity, honesty, and empathy. Fan involvement remained high throughout it all. Discussions, arguments, and assessments served as a continuous backdrop for the drama that was developing, serving as a constant reminder to everyone engaged of the public's voracious thirst for story and spectacle. Social media served as both a magnification and an amplifier, enhancing feelings and influencing perception in ways that no private discussion could undo. The evening, which had started off as a laid-back celebration, had turned into a complex tale of intense inspection, emotional confrontation, and revelation. A story that seemed larger than life but was wholly human in its emotional complexity was produced by the combination of drunk decisions, leaking intimate moments, and ensuing public conjecture. Everyone involved, whether directly or indirectly, had to overcome obstacles that required introspection, responsibility, and flexibility. There was an unstoppable surge of public opinion in the days that followed. Fans, friends, and family all closely examined every statement, update, and social media post. Everyone in the circle was affected by the leaks from that drunken evening, and very few were spared from conjecture. Yandy's feelings remained unfiltered. She wavered between rage, perplexity, and periods of introspection as she attempted to comprehend not just what had happened, but also the implications for her relationships and her trust. Mendeecees felt a great deal of pressure from the public. Every day appeared to bring fresh responses, some encouraging, others critical, all of which intensified the internal struggle he was going through. In an effort to negotiate the complicated emotional terrain that had developed, he made an effort to speak with Tamar. With caution, he stated, "We need to figure out a way to move forward, knowing that every remark could be misconstrued or leaked." With conflicting feelings of remorse, defensiveness, and fear of being judged, Tamar nodded. Managing one's emotions while everyone was watching and analyzing every move was an enormous challenge. The drama was further complicated by the differing and occasionally contradictory tales provided by friends who had been there that evening, while some stressed the emotional ramifications and the betrayal of trust. Others defended Mendeecees and Tamar, blaming the evening's events on intoxication and poor judgment. The story developed into a convoluted web in which perception, truth, and interpretation interacted in ways that made finding a solution more challenging. Every interaction seemed to have deeper connotations, so people had to be cautious. Yandy faced the emotional upheaval head-on. She contacted Tamar and Mendeecees in an attempt to get clarification and answers. "I must comprehend everything," she replied softly, her eyes displaying the internal conflict. "I can't just pretend this didn't happen or wait for everyone else to tell me what they think." Her candor required introspection and responsibility, making the other parties face not only the events of that evening, but also the fallout. The topic dominated discussion threads and forums as online speculation increased. Fans discussed motives, analyzed encounters, and speculated on possible results. Every small move was used as material for study, and every public appearance was re-examined in light of the drunken evening. The emotional anxiety was exacerbated by the social media tempest, turning personal concern into a public spectacle. Real-time behavior and decision-making were shaped by the unavoidable pressure provided by group observation. Mendeecees and Tamar tried having private talks to deal with the fallout, but their complicated feelings prevented easy fixes. They apologized, but each conversation was clouded by remorse, dread, and unanswered questions. Mendeecees said in a strained, low voice, "I didn't mean for it to get so out of hand." Tamar's response was a mix of comprehension and annoyance. The exchange brought to light the challenge of balancing human error with emotional responsibility. "I understand that, but it already has consequences, and ignoring them won't help." Yandy continued to respond with a mix of tenderness and assertiveness. She emphasized the need for accountability in the wake of the night's events and called for openness, clarity, and honesty. Friends and family were moved by the emotional depth of her situation. Some urged caution and distance, while others encouraged empathy. The contrasting counsel highlighted the difficulty of managing intimate relationships under heavy public scrutiny and added layers to the drama. Every conversation became more intense when Tamar's pregnancy was revealed. Discussions shifted to emotionally charged subjects like accountability, trust, and the future. Everyone concerned was forced to consider the long-term effects of a single night as the pregnancy became a source of conflict and a spur for introspection. It was impossible to avoid talking about possible outcomes, individual decisions, and emotional preparedness, which increased the urgency of already high-stakes exchanges. Meetings with friends and family were emotionally heated as loved ones tried to support and mediate. The level of influence on the personal dynamics around the core trio was made clear through intense debates, heartfelt confessions, and open thoughts, because different viewpoints revealed competing priorities, expectations, and emotional demands. Each action provided both clarity and complexity. The intricacy of these relationships highlighted the brittleness of trust and the challenge of managing strong feelings. While being composed in public, the story was still largely shaped by social media. The proliferation of memes, reaction videos, and conversation threads offered a variety of perspectives, from critical to sympathetic. Fans were split, with several navigating the situation's moral difficulty, while others expressed fury and support. Every connection was accentuated by the degree of public engagement, which had an unavoidable impact on decisions, feelings, and the developing story. Hidden tensions emerged as private chats proceeded. Attempts at reconciliation were complicated by the emergence of unresolved feelings, subtle resentments, and previously unsaid grudges. Every conversation had several levels of meaning, and misunderstandings increased the situation's volatility. Even well-meaning remarks have the potential to cause conflict, highlighting the careful communication balance needed to handle such emotionally charged situations. Mendeecees and Tamar shared frank thoughts on the events and their ramifications in an effort to find moments of peace and understanding. Every conversation attempt exposed weaknesses, regrets, and the human complexity of making decisions while under duress. These instances were interspersed with unvarnished candor and hesitant attempts at forgiveness, underscoring both the possibility of development and the difficulties involved in mending broken relationships. Yandy continued to play a pivotal role, her responses acting as a gauge of the emotional atmosphere. Her capacity to express her emotions, establish boundaries, and communicate honestly affected other people's actions, highlighting the significance of agency and self-respect in intricate relationship dynamics. Her viewpoint served as a reminder to all parties concerned that restoring trust once it had been damaged took serious consideration, introspection, and work. The weeks that followed were characterized by continual personal negotiations, public conjecture, and varying tensions. Every new event had the potential to change views and affect results. Whether it was a social media post, a public appearance, or a private discussion, the primary players were under intense pressure to make each choice carefully due to the interaction between private resolution and public scrutiny. The comprehension of the human stakes involved changed as the story did. Once a seemingly insignificant mistake, the drunk night had turned into a catalyst for introspection, conflict, and perhaps change. Relationships were put to the test, feelings were questioned, and trust was assessed, resulting in a situation where judicious compromise and open communication were crucial. Each participant had to confront the fact that decisions made during vulnerable times could have emotional repercussions that would last a lifetime. In the middle of this protracted drama, fresh information regarding the people's emotional states on the relevant night surfaced. The drama was given context by memories of past tensions, unresolved disputes, and subtle clues. Fans were keen to make connections between these parts, examining public remarks, interactions, and behavioral patterns to gain a deeper understanding of the story. A complex narrative that captured attention and sparked ongoing discussion was produced by the mix of leaked events and public conjecture. The emotional complexity persisted despite ongoing private attempts at reconciliation. Tension, remorse, and hesitant hope pervaded every conversation. Every interaction was characterized by the interplay between understanding and accountability, as the participants worked to restore trust while recognizing the consequences of the previous evening's events. The difficulty of upholding one's integrity, while under public scrutiny, was highlighted by the additional strain brought on by external inspection. Friends and family continue to provide perspective and support, affecting decisions and emotional reactions. Discussions concerning forgiveness, accountability, and the future were frequent, illustrating the intricate interaction between individual decision-making, societal expectations, and interpersonal relationships. The narrative has grown into a shared experience encompassing community, fan interaction, and public opinion rather than being limited to the participants alone. As the pregnancy's realities took center stage, the emotional storyline grew more intense. It was impossible to resist thinking about family dynamics, personal accountability, and the future. Every encounter, whether in private or in public, bore greater weight, aware that mistakes could have repercussions for both themselves and the larger network of ties surrounding them. The participants carefully navigated each stage. The seemingly brief night had turned into a story of intense emotion, public scrutiny, and complicated relationships. A riveting, dramatic, and very human story was produced by the confluence of drunk decisions, personal vulnerability, and widespread rumors. Knowing that the outcome would affect relationships, reputations, and personal development for some time to come, the characters were compelled to face their feelings, choices, and obligations with integrity and bravery. As the weeks went by, the conflict between Yandy, Tamar, Braxton, and Mendeecees intensified. Public rumors, private discussions, and attempts at reconciliation all converged to create an emotional maelstrom that appeared unmanageable. Every move was examined, every word examined, and every silence deciphered as an expression of defiance, regret, or guilt. What had at first appeared to be a brief moment had developed into a narrative that affected every facet of their private and public lives. Knowing that the drunken night had permanently altered the dynamics of his relationships, Mendeecees struggled with the fallout from his actions. He thought back on times when he had been vulnerable, tense, and laughing. He realized how quickly boundaries had become hazy and how his decisions now had consequences that went well beyond the initial event. An ongoing undercurrent of worry resulted from the need to behave properly, communicate clearly, and control one's own and the public's impressions. Tamar, who was equally impacted, had to deal with both controlling her own feelings and navigating the scrutiny of both family and admirers. As she tried to strike a balance between her personal responsibility and the reality of public attention, she was plagued by feelings of guilt, doubt, and the need for honesty. Every private discussion was a communication and patience test, with every word carefully chosen to prevent misunderstandings or additional issues. The revelation of the positive pregnancy only raised the stakes, making choices and actions more important than before. The power and fragility of Yandy's response did not change. She refused to let emotion or conjecture cloud her judgment, and instead kept her attention on comprehension, truth, and personal boundaries. "I need clarity," she whispered softly, sadness and resolution visible in her eyes. Her insistence on openness compelled both Mendeecees and Tamar to face difficult realities, negotiate the complexity of their actions, and deal with the fallout from choices made while intoxicated. We can't move forward without honesty, without acknowledging what happened and what it means. As they struggled with their own emotions, friends and family continued to play crucial roles by providing guidance, support, and mediation. Their presence brought to light the brittleness of relationships, the difficulty of forgiving, and the difficulties of striking a balance between accountability and compassion. Every interaction was characterized by intense debates, quiet times of introspection, and open admissions, each of which exposed weaknesses, anxieties, and the human complexity present in the circumstance. Social media continued to be an unrelenting force, magnifying every detail and stoking fan conjecture. Memes, analysis threads, and reaction videos proliferated, keeping the story in the public eye and applying more pressure to those involved. Fans frequently projected their interpretations onto the panelists as they discussed reasons, repercussions, and possible remedies. Online discourse's impact made private conversations more urgent by serving as a constant reminder that individual choices were now influenced by public opinion. Emotional breakthroughs surfaced as private conversations continued. Tentative strides toward understanding were made possible by times of unvarnished honesty, vulnerability, and introspection. Yandy emphasized the depth of her feelings and the boundaries required for progress. Mendeecees acknowledged her mistakes, and Tamar voiced regret and concern for the future. Despite being tense, these conversations offered chances for introspection and reconciliation, underscoring the challenge and importance of facing tough emotions head-on. The disclosure of the pregnancy test continued to influence relationships, acting as a source of conflict as well as a spur for introspection. It became impossible to avoid having conversations about accountability, responsibility, and personal preparedness. These conversations were filled with anticipation, emotion, and accountability. Decisions now held significant personal and relational ramifications. Thus, the trio's ability to handle these conversations with integrity and consideration became crucial. The participants had private moments of clarity and comfort in the face of constant monitoring. Glimpses of possible resolution were provided by introspective thoughts, sincere discussions, and epiphanies. But the shadow of public conjecture persisted, serving as a constant reminder of the fine line that must be drawn between personal recovery and outside criticism. Every decision, every statement, every gesture was filtered through the prism of public opinion, raising the stakes and intensifying the emotional impact of every exchange. Confrontation, introspection, and hesitant reconciliation characterized the evenings that followed. Though feelings were running high, hints of comprehension started to show. Every stage of the procedure was difficult due to obstacles, miscommunications, and unanswered questions. It was neither straightforward nor linear. However, in the midst of the conflict and uncertainty, a common understanding of responsibility and the necessity of honest communication started to emerge. Even though the events of that drunken night were dramatic, they ultimately acted as a catalyst for open communication and emotional reflection. Fans and relatives alike were enthralled with the story's emotional intensity, relational intricacy, and human vulnerability as it developed. The story of Mendeecees, Tamar, Braxton, Kane, and Yandy demonstrated how one night of poor decision-making and unrestrained emotion might have an impact on long-term relationships, public reputation, and personal lives. Every encounter, whether private or public, was significant, and every choice had an impact on both short-term and long-term dynamics. The three of them negotiated the tumultuous aftermath of the night through introspection, conflict, and conversation. As they faced errors, accepted punishments, and thought about the future, accountability, honesty, and emotional bravery became guiding values. The event brought to light the brittleness of trust, the depth of human emotion, and the influence of perception on public and private narratives. By the end, everyone involved had been permanently impacted by the drunken evening. Emotions had surged beyond anyone's expectations, relationships had been put to the strain, and trust had been questioned. However, there was still a way forward despite the stress, uncertainty, and public scrutiny, one that called for tolerance, comprehension, and a dedication to sincere introspection. Despite being challenging, the lessons learned that evening emphasized the intricacy of interpersonal relationships and the need to face consequences with moral rectitude and emotional intelligence. Fans everywhere are still enthralled with the drama of that drunken night. A flurry of conjecture, passion, and public curiosity has been sparked by the disclosure of the intimate moment between Mendeecees and Tamar Braxton, Yandy's shocked response, and the news of a positive pregnancy test. Emotions have surged beyond anyone's expectations. Relationships have been put to the test, and trust has been called into question. It serves as a reminder that even intimate events can have far-reaching effects, particularly when they take place under the harsh spotlight of reality TV. As followers attempt to piece together the truth, comprehend reasons, and speculate about what might happen next. The narrative has generated endless criticism, debates, and conversations on the internet. There are still unanswered questions as the scenario develops. Is there a chance for reconciliation? What impact will these disclosures have on the intricate relationships between Yandy, Tamar, and Mendeecees? What choices will be taken in the upcoming days and weeks? The emotional stakes are still high, and fans are left on the edge, breathlessly awaiting every new revelation. The evening, which began as a lighthearted celebration, has developed into a tale of responsibility, integrity, and deep human feeling that has drawn interest from people far and wide. We would like to know what you think. What are your thoughts on the leak, the disclosures, and the subsequent responses? Do you think trust can be restored, or has the harm already been done? If you like the coverage, please like this video and leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Get more updates on reality TV drama, startling discoveries, and behind-the-scenes moments that fans can't stop talking about by subscribing to our channel. You won't want to miss a single moment in the world of reality TV. So stay tuned, because the next twist is always just around the corner.